Hello, hello. Hello. Hello, good morning. There you go.
There we are. Finally, it took a second there. Sometimes technology is not our best friend.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning. How you doing?
Good, thanks. Thank you for joining me.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure.
Take two, here we go.
Yeah, absolutely. Eh?
Yeah, everybody, good morning. This is take number 2 for us. Today, I'll be chatting with, you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Chris Commandant. I'm currently an instructor at Algonquin College and one of the culinary figures here in Ottawa.
Nice, pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you as well too, Paul.
How's your day going so far today?
Good so far. It was a late start to the day. Decided to take a little bit of a sleep in and have
Yeah.
that early morning coffee. It's nice and sunny out today, so it's actually a beautiful morning to take a coffee out on the back porch.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
Yeah, like we all, some days we just need that extra, like little bit there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially that sunshine. It's making me feel pretty good today. And knowing that we've got some acclimate weather around the corner, we're supposed to get some serious rain the next 2 days.
Oh man,
Yeah,
that could be good for all of our gardens, but like
absolutely.
we definitely love that sun though, right?
Oh, absolutely. Heck, we've been missing it. We've been waiting for winter to go away all this time, and now we're all kind of stuck indoors.
Yeah, big difference, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, like I've been following you on Instagram, and I really love the videos and the recipes that you've been sharing for all of us here at home.
Well, thanks. I took it upon myself to kind of make it like a household project. If you're stuck at home and you don't have anything really to do other than some online computer work, it's nice to get cooking for the family, and just put up that knowledge and share it with everybody. It's really important.
That's so cool. So how many people do you have living at your place?
We are four regularly, and then it can get pretty busy at times. So we're
Yeah.
lucky. It's not. I know that you were saying that you've got a very full house. So, um, I mean, the meals are going like really well and coming out really well for everybody. So everybody's happy about it. But yeah,
Yeah.
we're not too crowded. We're comfortable for space right now.
Nice. That's good. That's
Yeah.
good. A little extra comfy space is always fun.
Absolutely, yeah. It's nice to have a place to go as well too. If you're all stuck in the house, sometimes it's nice just to go to another level in the house and just be the only one on that floor.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah,
A little bonus.
yeah, absolutely.
So one of the recipes that I really enjoyed watching recently was your fried rice dish.
Oh, thanks. Definitely something I really like to do. It's something I've been kind of tinkering with for years, and I feel I've finally gotten it down to a science. I always find that the trick is the day-old rice. You want it nice
Oh,
and dry so it can get crispy in the pan. Green peas are a must. I always feel like like when you went to any of the Chinese buffets or even just like the like I say the food court sort of mall Chinese food, they've always got green peas in there and eggs. So
yeah.
um, yeah, I feel like it's a good dish. There's lots of good seasonings and ingredients into it, and try and keep it like with fresh ingredients as much as possible.
Yeah. Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
So how long have you been in the industry here?
I've been in the industry for 28 years.
Nice.
Started really young and cooked my way through a multitude of different things and different restaurants. I've had some ability to travel as well too
Nice.
in my time in the kitchen. Work for some very high end restaurants. Work for
Yeah.
some for friends to help out. And I'm finishing off right now as an educator at Algonquin College, teaching the Indigenous pre-apprenticeship program as the coordinator, but also teaching in level 1 and level 3 in the culinary management and culinary skills department.
So you have a big impact on culinary in Indigenous and Canadian, I guess, right?
Absolutely. Our program at Algonquin College is the first of its kind, and it was created as a response to um, Aboriginal graduation rates in education, because when we look at it as with them as domestic students, they only graduate 3% out of
Yeah.
a post-secondary program, whereas with a program that's a little more focused and Indigenous driven with the lessons, the stories, and the food, the graduation rates increase, and it encourages them to go further on into their careers and to really look at culinary as not just a last-ditch effort, but an actual true calling.
Yeah. That's a huge difference in numbers, right?
Absolutely. It makes a big difference, and the program's going into its 5th year. This year we've had to postpone it. Normally we'd run it through the spring summer session, but with everything that's going on outside in the outside world with COVID-19, we've
Yeah.
had to push it back until the fall for now and kind of retool it. Our students obviously don't want to leave their communities and come here as well too, because there's a fear of not being able to go back home.
Oh, yeah.
Well, with medical and those options and resources being limited in a lot of our communities, it would be devastating to have that the COVID outbreak in one of those communities going back.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. It's definitely scary and trying times, right? How's that affected like teaching, like
It
students, I guess?
I find the student response has been mixed. I teach a lot of the practical classes myself, more so than theory. So we've had to move those practical classes into an online situation. And there's obviously a little bit of disappointment because they enjoy coming into the kitchen, they enjoy learning, they enjoy being around the instructors that have the history and the experience, and like myself, newly out of the industry and into the educational format,
Yeah.
bringing that realistic approach to a class definitely is missed. So for them, I know they'd hope to come back, but unfortunately they can't. So they're completing most of their lessons online right now.
Yeah. Well, that's that's like amazing. Like you guys are able to transition and do that pretty quick, right? Because
It,
nobody's seen this coming, and like nobody can really prepare for it either, right?
Absolutely. I mean, and the toughest part was the preparation. We have a great staff, coordinators, academic chairs, and a dean in our School of Hospitality that has really, really helped us get uh, everything in focus. But it was a very fast shift, and a lot of the professors or course leads had to really push hard and get creative on how to complete some of these assignments. Like our practical 3 is doing a black box, our practical 1's doing a point of sale assignment as their finals, and those had to be put together fairly quickly to have a response and to keep them engaged. Like engaging your learners is so important.
Oh man, I remember doing that back in culinary school, the black box.
Oh
Those
yeah.
those were always intense, right?
Yeah.
Like just going back, like thinking through your mind, like what's gonna be in there, how should I cook it?
One of my job interviews when I was interviewing to work at the Sheraton in Toronto,
Yeah,
to come in the role of sous chef, that was actually part of my interview. I went through an HR interview. I sat down with the chef and their other sous chef that was there.
yeah,
And on my 3rd interview, it was a black box. And that was really challenging because they give you the ingredients. You have to have all your own tools and all that stuff with you. So you better pack smart for that kind of thing. The students are a little luckier. They've got some of the extra goodies kicking around the lab. So it helps them out.
yeah. That's so cool. And that was one of the best things I remember about culinary school. Like they always had like up to date technologies, right?
Yeah.
And like having masters at it like yourself, right? teaching teaching like the next generation of cooks, whether they could be just in the industry or they specialize in our indigenous food culture.
Absolutely, and I feel that there's a drastic shift as we start to see more and more Indigenous cookbooks coming out. It's very encouraging to see
Yeah,
how many are coming out now and how many Indigenous chefs are coming to the forefront. You know, as I scroll through my Instagram on a daily, it's nice to see all the different projects from your project on Instagram where you're doing these videos right now, and even your previous foods as well too. It's encouraging to be able to say, hey, students, look, these are other people that are doing things within the country, and some of them local, some of them on a national level. It's really nice for them to see that, though. It's encouraging, and it lets them know that there is something else that's out there and that they can do this in the future.
yeah, that's definitely awesome, right? Like when I was in culinary school, like there's so many different options you can go to, like in the food and beverage service, right? And yeah, just get out there and enjoy it, and like after you get some experience, you can definitely fine tune where you're going to be professional in, right?
Absolutely, and that's the joy of being an instructor at the
Yeah,
college that I found was being a part of that journey.
yeah,
Um, you do hear from students when they've graduated and moved on, and sometimes you don't, and you often wonder how the story ends for a student sometimes.
yeah,
But it's nice to be a part of that journey right when you're there and encouraging them and helping them grow and learn and giving them those resources sometimes that aren't in the classroom and aren't in the textbooks and those lessons that you bring to the table because you get handed a shell and an outline on the materials you need to cover, but it's how you teach it and how you present it that's completely different.
yeah,
And that's what I found the joy with the Indigenous program was being able to add that touch, like part of my culture being Mohawk, originally our family from Oka and residing in Wata, just outside of Bala in Muskoka region.
yeah,
It's nice to take some of my culture and bring that in, but also to hear the other students as well too. You learn from your students as well, and that's what this
yeah,
is, a constant journey.
yeah. That's awesome. Like I think you talked about it briefly yesterday intake one about I think it was the one
The
bowl.
one bowl, one spoon philosophy.
Yeah,
Yeah, I always bring that into the lessons with the students. And it's one of those things that I kind of present on day one. On day one, it's a dry run for them, and they come together, and I produce some food,
yeah,
and they try it, and we talk about the course outline. And I always put it in one bowl with one spoon. And just
yeah.
like it is traditionally, you take what you need to sustain yourself and pass that bowl along to somebody else. The reason for the spoon is no sharp edges. Like if you put a fork in there, it's an aggressive thing in our in the Iroquois Confederacy and in the Longhouse. So when chiefs would
Yeah.
meet, they'd have that one bowl, one spoon, take enough for themselves and pass it on to the next person, and so on and so forth. So it's taking what you need from that, and I teach them that when they're in their lessons is take
Yeah.
what you need to complete your dish and or what you need from the land to
Oh
sustain
man.
yourself and leave the rest for somebody else. You know.
Yeah. I love it. Like as soon as you said that, I was like, oh my God, that's an awesome saying and teaching, right? It has many different factors to it.
Well,
And
yeah, absolutely. It relates to the fact that foods are medicine, and
yeah,
you can't overindulge in medicine. You know, everything in moderation. I mean, right now, as we're kind of sitting at home, we're probably indulging a little more in food, but
yeah,
uh, that's just it, though. The one bowl, one spoon philosophy is something I try and do with my cooking. You know, and even at home when I make
yeah,
a meal, it's enough to sustain everybody, and maybe a little bit extra these days because everybody's eating a little extra, but.
yeah,
Um, you know, not wasting things and being grateful for what we have and what Creator has given us, and how we're moving along with that as a people as well too. And sharing that knowledge is really important.
yeah, big time. And definitely, I agree 100%. And another thing that we kind of briefly talked about yesterday was when you're being able to cook at home, you know, everything that goes exactly in your dish. And I think we're kind of good cooks, so kids would definitely love like seconds or thirds, right?
Absolutely, or sometimes the fourths, depending on what you're making and what their favorite dish might be that right now.
Yeah,
Yeah, you know, and it's just that bringing that comfort as well too, especially in trying times like this. If you have food, it's comforting, right? And that comfort's part of the ideology of food being medicine. You know, taking
yeah,
what you need to be comfortable and to feel fulfilled, but um, making sure everybody gets to eat from that table.
yeah, big time. That's like I got to travel a little bit with the Indigenous Cognitive Associate Nations recently. That's a new nonprofit that a few of us started here. There's some people from Toronto, Quebec, Manitoba, Calgary, just across the nation, right? And we come together and do Taste of the Nations. We do some keynote speaking in the community, right? But that was the biggest thing is to showcase, share, and educate about Indigenous culinary, right?
Absolutely, and spreading that knowledge is important. I'm seeing it coming out more and more. There are more and more Canadian chefs. You've got Rich Francis with Seventh Fire Catering. Just
Yeah,
he did that YouTube series out with Shane Chartrand and a couple others that I
yeah,
can't recall their names off the top of my head, but there was some great information that came out of that and some great technique and skill, but also sharing it because if you
yeah,
you don't know what it is, it can be daunting. And a lot of our ways and our culture and our food ways have been lost because there's a generational gap at times where people aren't interested in it. And I'm happy to see more people becoming interested in it and getting involved and really trying to understand and learn who they are and their culture and their
Yeah.
history as well.
Yeah, for sure. That was an awesome series. Like I was super excited when I seen it. I got to work with some of the people that created that before. Last summer, I think they did a little series with Indigenous tourism and Black Rhino Productions. They're awesome people, and just like every week, like when that started, like I was super excited to check it out. Right?
Absolutely. It was tons of fun to see. It was great to see the amount of awards it won as well too. But
Yeah,
it put some names out there. Like
yeah,
Shane had a new book come out not long ago, and
yeah,
it's great when you go through it and you're looking through it. But it's nice to see that there's another book like that that's come out. I mean, Sean Sherman's sous chef has
yeah,
really hit the head on the nail, and winning a James Barrett Award was a huge accolade, and it's amazing to see that for an Indigenous chef and
yeah,
that to come forward. That's some big strides and steps our people are taking, and it seems that it's
yeah,
not just here, it's everywhere now in Canada. You're finding it across the nation that people are becoming proud of who they are and expressing it, and that's very encouraging and makes me
yeah.
hopeful for that next generation of chef.
Yeah, it's huge, man. Like those are a couple of the really big names in our industry, right? And like just following Shane's like career too, right? Being in like Chop Canada, Iron Chef Canada. Now his new cookbook's out. That's amazing. Like keep it up. And
Yeah, he was on Fridge Wars the other day on CBC I saw, and then he's on the Food Network's Wall of Chefs as well too. So it
yeah,
is encouraging to see how many people are coming along.
yeah,
Uh, Rich being on Top Chef was a huge inspiration to myself as well. Seeing him do what he was
yeah,
doing and how he was cooking and actually bringing his tradition to the table on a national forefront was just
yeah.
very encouraging and refreshing to see.
Yeah, I actually had the pleasure of meeting Chef Rich. He was pretty awesome. He came into Squamish Nation territory a couple winters ago, and he cooked with me and my oldest son Marcus. And yeah, like we just had fun in the kitchen. He was showing Marcus a couple tips and tricks, and it was pretty crazy to meet a chef of that caliber, right?
Well, exactly. Our students in the Indigenous program had the chance to actually meet him and cook with him when the NAC opened up One Elgin, when they did their grand reopening here at the National Arts Center.
Yeah,
Nelson Borges, the general manager, and Kenton Lear, the head chef, were bringing in chefs from around the country as part of the idea that food can be a theater and an art. And
yeah,
the students had the privilege of spending the whole day with Rich,
that's
cooking
so
all the
cool.
way through for the dinner. They were lauded with praise by the crowd when the dinner was over. It was a great experience, and Rich is a super humble person to meet,
Yeah,
very knowledgeable and encouraging of the students. It was a fantastic event for us to be a part of, and that's part and parcel because of our connections with Algonquin College, the Indigenous
yeah,
program, and just a few people at the college who helped pull it all together.
yeah. That's awesome, man. Like it just sounds like a amazing fun event, right?
Oh, it was great. They had a fantastic time, and I mean, getting to fill up on some traditional foods isn't such a bad thing either.
Yeah. Speaking of our indigenous food culture, what would be something that you really love enjoying during these times right now?
Uh, for me, I go back to a classic for me, Three Sisters soup. Um, that's with hominy corn in there, all your vegetables, some fresh zucchini. There's a million different ways to make it, and I know that I could probably spit out a recipe right here, and somebody else watching this might be like, "That's not my grandma's recipe. She doesn't do it that way." Everybody's it's kind of based on what you can get. Some people have to use kerneled corn from the can or frozen because they can't get
Yeah,
hominy corn. So for me, I find it's really comforting. It's
yeah,
warm, it's refreshing, and it's just a fresh feeling. And it's very integral in our growing systems, in our food culture. The idea of the Three Sisters. I mean, that's been copied across the board now, being
yeah.
used everywhere.
That's a that's a classic, right? And like you were saying, there's so many different ways to do it. I would say I like using black bean, I guess,
Yeah.
in that kind of salad for myself.
Yeah, Three Sisters. I've done Three Sisters salad with wild rice before, and that was
Oh
a really big
man,
hit. And
yeah,
yeah, that was actually one of the dishes that I'd say is kind of one of my signature indigenous dishes, and I brought that into
yeah,
the college as a recipe for the students to work on in
yeah,
their restaurant class, and it went over swimmingly well. There was nothing left. They ate it all. There's
yeah.
nothing to package up or at all. They literally devoured it all.
Well, wild rice is always delicious, right? It has a different flavor and texture as well, right? And then adding those wonderful indigenous ingredients to it, other indigenous ingredients, I'm pretty sure a lot of people would love that, right?
Absolutely. The trick is to put some sun-dried cranberries in there, add some tartness to
Oh
the dish too,
man,
so it really
yeah,
livens it up and brings that to another level. And if you can, I do a wild garlic vinaigrette. So you char up your wild garlic and add that to a little Dijon mustard,
yeah.
emulsify it with some oil, and it's good to go.
Just hearing that, like I hearing the vinaigrette and like just the tanginess, right? Plus the those like definitely gets my brain thinking, and then like just imagine tasting that. It sounds delicious.
Absolutely, and that goes right back to the whole idea of like we can incorporate it into that teaching, that one bowl, one spoon. I've taken a
Yeah,
little bit of knowledge from there, and I pass that bowl along to somebody else so they can take a little bit of knowledge as well too. And that's what this is ultimately. When we pull
yeah,
it all together, is all of us are knowledge holders and knowledge sharers, especially as chefs. It's our goal
yeah,
and our responsibility to the next generation to teach them not just good technique, but history and a better culture and our food ways.
yeah, for sure. And like speaking of that, what is your family's favorite dish so far?
It's a toss-up. It can be a toss-up between my wife's chili or her meat sauce with pasta.
Yeah,
I find they go crazy when I do ramen dishes for them, because I
I
like to go
like.
all out, all the toppings, the seaweed, the thinly shaved beef, or even thinly shaved pork, and then doing that 6-minute soft boiled egg, where they
Oh
can crack it
man,
open and it's all
yeah.
yolky and just all the toppings can go on there, from togarashi to sweet soy, and they load it up, and it's a very, very comforting dish, but it's super satisfying. And that one, there's never leftovers on.
All right, so if I had to pick right now, I would definitely go for the ramen.
Yeah, I'm a noodle fanatic when it comes to it. It's one of those things. I've seen it as well too. Rich did an indigenous pho dish that he
Oh
was posting up
man,
from his catering, and it
yeah,
inspires me to think, as we move forward with this indigenous program, maybe that's
yeah,
something we can introduce to the students and get them just as excited about noodles as I am.
yeah. I think yesterday you were talking about you've made noodles from scratch. How,
Absolutely. Yep. And when I do ramen, I like to do my own noodles from scratch, because
man,
then you get that real chew and you're looking for that alkaline. So my trick always is, whenever you're doing that and you're reading a recipe and it calls for baking soda inside the recipe, to make sure that you bake your baking soda on low for like 3 hours, because it helps dumb it out a little bit, but it adds that alkaline sort of like feel, and it gives that noodle that extra texture and chew that you're looking for.
oh man, that is so cool. Like I've made like lasagna noodles before, but that's pretty well it.
Well, the ramen noodle thing, I mean, I love watching different programs that are on TV. Ivan Orkin's ramen shop in Japan, a Jewish guy who opens
Oh,
up a ramen shop in Japan and becomes like a hit there,
yeah.
giving lessons on noodles in his cookbook. I'm like, I got to do this guy some honor as well too, and try and make these and see how they turn out. And they turned out really well.
Oh
It's just
man.
it's practice. The first time I tried it, it was a hit, and I'm getting ready to do it again and again and again, because
Nice.
I want to perfect that recipe.
Yeah, that is awesome, man. If you ever take requests, I'd like to see that done.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we take lots of requests through. I ask people send me their ideas, their thoughts, and just how they're cooking, what they're cooking at home, and how
Yeah,
they're doing as well too. Because you realize as you're on social media and you're posting stuff that global community kind of shrinks
yeah,
up a little bit, and you're able to share and relate and share
yeah.
stories with people, but also share what's going on in your kitchen and hopefully encourage and bring that passion to them and get them just as excited about food as we are.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, man.
Yeah.
Like just seeing your recipes and like your plated dishes on your Instagram stories is like, oh my God.
Well,
Like
thank you for that.
yeah, I show the woman like your stuff that I was like, man, we gotta try do this. That other chicken dish you did the other day looked
Oh,
really good.
oh, the chicken cacciatore with the gnocchi blowout. Yeah.
Yeah,
The gnocchi recipe is just wrong potatoes. It was too gummy, and I'm like, oh, I need a backup. I'm like, oh, tagliatelle. I've got some in the cupboard. Let's go with that. It
yeah,
turned out really well,
nice.
but there's always room to improve it. And like I said in the story, when you make a mistake, you got to have a backup plan, or just accept there's a mistake and learn from it. That's the difference between us as chefs and younger chefs. We've made more mistakes and we've learned from them, so we
Yeah,
can share that knowledge with them.
yeah, for sure. And we'll touch briefly on it. Like yesterday, we were talking about following recipes and all that, but you said the recipes are more like
it's
guidelines.
Yeah, it's more like a guideline. It's up to you to bring life to the recipe.
Yeah,
If it says 1 teaspoon of salt and that's not enough, add a little bit more. It's all about tasting and working with it and flavors and combinations like that. And I feel like in pastry, it's very like regimented. It's like follow step 1, 2, 3, 4, and it has to be for that reason, or something won't turn out. Too much yeast, it's going to over brew. It's going to be
yeah,
too puffy, or too much baking soda, it's going to be over puffy, or sorry, baking powder. Uh,
yeah,
But with cooking, you can adjust things, because maybe you want a little more salt. Maybe you want a little more green onions than that quarter cup it's calling for. So
yeah,
it's an interpretation. It's what you bring to the recipe as a cook and as a chef.
yeah. Like you can enhance like your favorite flavor, I guess, a bit more, right? So that's
Absolutely, and I mean everybody like I don't know about you, but I like spicy food. So
yeah.
maybe I want a little extra sriracha in my ramen dish than the
I'll
kids do. So
I'll go
I'll
on that part too. I'll
yeah,
stick with you on
absolutely.
that.
It just keeps running out. It's a condiment that runs out in this house.
Yeah. So like some of the kids would like their like if we're having like ramen or something, they'll like a little bit more soy sauce, so the saltiness, and then some of us will like it a little bit more spicier, right?
Absolutely.
So
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, people talk a lot about umami, but I feel like umami is relevant to yourself. It's
yeah,
your definition of it. So it's when it hits your palate, if it's that pleasing for your palate, then
yeah,
you might have to adjust the recipe to do that yourself.
yeah, and yeah, just play around with it, right? And
Absolutely. Food experimentation sometimes winds up with the happiest of accidents. I mean, somebody along the way had to figure out how demi-glace works and beef stocks by roasting some bones and putting them into a pot with a bunch of vegetables to get this beautiful brown stock. And you
yeah,
know that's I'm pretty sure that was probably a happy accident somewhere, or someone was just really, really hungry.
yeah, no doubt, right?
Yeah.
Like the sorry, the beautiful start to any kind of sauce or gravy or soup, right?
Absolutely. It's about experimentation and playing. I mean, if you look at the history of a bunch of different dishes, there's always some sort of creative and inventive way, like potato chips, somebody not liking their chips, their French fries being soggy, somebody thinly shaving them and frying and actually coming up with the idea of the crispy potato chip was like a complete fluke on his part, but it's now a global phenomenon. I mean,
Yeah, the texture and the flavor of it, right? It's one of the key elements to any kind of plating, I guess, right?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's just it. Like, so that's why I tell people recipes are interpretive. It's what you want to take from it. Maybe you don't want that specific onion in there and you want to use a different one. It's about changing and making that dish yours as well too. And then you own that dish, and it becomes a part of your personality, and sometimes it becomes a family favorite that way.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I know here, like I try to get the older ones to come and cook with me, and sometimes they'll make some eggs on their own. Like we'll go turn the oven on We've done eggs and macaroni, spaghetti, like all the simple stuff, right?
Yeah. It's a great way to get a good base as well too. When you start kids younger at a younger age, especially if you introduce them to foods, I find that they're less objective. You know, like they're less to object to a particular item being in a dish. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
there's obviously there's things kids aren't going to like sometimes. Like you put it in, no matter what, they just don't like the flavor or the texture, and that's expected. But if you
Yeah.
introduce them to something young enough, and they eat it and they like it, then it just
Yeah.
opens that repertoire of things that they're going to look at, and encourages them to cook different things as they get older too.
Yeah. I know it was pretty funny because recently, just last night, when like our dinner last night, uh, we had green beans with corn and uh, I forgot what that vegetable is called. You have it a lot for like Thanksgiving, and it's
Like,
kind of like cabbage, the small ones.
oh, Brussels sprouts.
Yeah, Brussels sprouts.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Brussels.
yeah.
Yeah, I love them. They're great.
We the woman makes them really good. Like she chops them up really thinly, and then she mixed it with the green beans with butter and corn, salt and pepper. It was so delicious. But
Nice.
uh, but the kids didn't even notice, and they ate it.
Yeah, that's just it. Sometimes you got to blend an ingredient. Like if you've noticed, my youngest daughter, she doesn't like mushrooms at all.
Yeah,
Absolutely despises them. But I use a lot of mushroom powder and
yeah,
things. So you take the dehydrated mushroom into a spice grinder and then incorporate it into your sauce, so it adds that extra element of flavor. But they don't notice that
nice.
it's there, you know. So I did that last night with the tofu recipe that was up, the crispy tofu, as part of the
Dang.
seasoning. A little bit of mushroom powder in there just to give it some extra flavor.
So, like I was a wok cook for a bit, and that's when I really became aware of tofu and like the different flavors and textures that you can bring to like wok cooking.
Absolutely. I mean, I did something without meat last night because we've been doing meat, and after a while, you're like, okay, we got to tone back on that richness. You know, we're getting a lot of this protein and whatnot. But it was about bringing something fresh. And like, I mean, there's a
Yeah,
million different ways to do different things with tofu. A great trick that I usually do is if you have tofu and you put it into a freezer bag with soya sauce. And
yeah,
then and coat it all together, or put it and immerse it in there, and freeze it in the freezer. When you pull it out,
yeah.
and it defrosts, the whole thing is black, and including in the center, it sucks it up like a sponge. So
Oh, what?
yeah, it's a lot of fun. I mean, wok cooking is great. I loved it. Wok with Yan way back in the day was my jam when I was a kid growing up, and used to sit in the living room with my mom's big wok and bang away on it and play in it, trying to pretend to imitate Martin Yan's Wok with Yan. You know, so
Yeah,
uh, I find I break it out a lot more now that I'm at home these days, a lot more often.
that is awesome. Do you have any tips for the home cooks and foodies out there for about wok cooking?
For wok cooking, you got to make sure it's high heat, and you got to constantly stir and be moving things around. If you let it sit for a minute or two and it's really, really hot, it's going to burn. I always tell people it's about movement and motion. And as you saw in the video yesterday, I was just stirring like crazy in there. So
Yeah,
it's about making sure that you keep your ingredients moving around and not sticking to the bottom. And a good
yeah,
quality oil, nice clean wok, high heat, and reasonably sized cut pieces for your vegetables, and you're good to go.
yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
And like, what about the style and type of wok? Like, I know some of them are round, some of them are flat. There's like different sizes too.
Yeah, I've got a fairly large wok just because of the family. If we're going to
Yeah,
do something like that, I mean, yesterday's recipe had 5 cups of cooked rice in it, and there was plenty of room to add more if I needed to.
nice. Yeah,
Um, I find getting yourself like a good cast iron wok.
yeah,
Something it's going to be heavy, but it will last you a long time as long as you take care of it, clean it properly, and season it, oil it as well too, so it doesn't get rusty. And if you take care of that, it'll last a long time. I find that there's a lot of flimsy ones that come out, handles will break off, or they
yeah.
start to warp and whatnot. But something good and heavy duty will last you for years to come. It's an
Nice.
investment, right?
Yeah. It's uh it's a handy tool and you can do many different things in them, right?
Absolutely. Everything from stir fries to deep frying if you wanted to. I've
Yeah.
seen people make donuts in a wok before. I've done fry bread in a wok before. So you
Oh, what?
take
Nice.
take all of your lard and get it hot, and then you literally put in your fry bread pieces in there to cook them off for Indian tacos. I mean, that's
Oh
it.
man.
It's the best braiser out there for that, and the best little deep fryer kind of thing, and great
Yeah.
for stir fries. So yeah, you cover all the bases with that.
Yeah, can mix it up, right? Just not one cuisine.
Absolutely. Multiple cuisines. It's an international cooking pot.
That is so cool, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would another question, like, do you have any sweet, cool recipes that you would love to share with all the people?
Absolutely. I've had a lot of people, and I'm going to do it again tonight because it's backed by popular request, not
Yeah,
just from the household, but from people online. Is the tonkatsu. A lot of people look at that Japanese sandwich. Traditionally it's just a breaded pork cutlet that's
yeah,
on white sandwich bread with no crust and a little Kewpie mayo,
yeah,
and it's simple and easy, but it's crispy. And I'm going to post that up tonight all the way through the feed,
yeah,
through my story, and as well into my Instagram main page,
yeah.
because a lot of people really want to know how to do it, and there are certain steps you can take to have a really good sandwich, and just
Nice.
giving it that. I think we're going to make some Kewpie mayo in the house as well too, season up some regular mayonnaise and get that going, and you
Yeah,
know that some simple French fries tonight, and maybe a nice chilled pasta salad just to have that sort of like comfort food for an evening.
yeah, that sounds awesome, man.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see it. Like I was saying, I really enjoy watching your Instagram stuff.
Well, it's been great, and it's been a fun journey in doing this as well too. And I feel like it's not just for everybody else, but it's also keeping me cooking as well too, and that helps you stay safe and sane in these times, because this is a different era right now, and it's we're really unsure about what's to come next.
Yeah. So being a professor at the college and mentoring all these new cooks and up and comers, who would be the one that inspired you, like to get into uh, culinary, I guess.
When I was younger, I came from a household where food was really important, and
Yeah,
we grew up without very much when I was younger, but there were a lot of great home cooked meals on the table, and I have to say, my family encouraged that out of me. But different people, as I watched them on TV, I was enamored by food. Like I saw
yeah,
Martin Yan when I was younger, and James
that's cool.
Barber, the urban peasant, the guy who was like, didn't have enough of something, well, substitute this, and he really did. He helped me adopt that philosophy of do what you can with what you have where you are. And I
Yeah,
think that's really applicable to today, as people look at my recipes and they're like, well, I didn't have that ingredient, but I had this instead. And it's like, okay, substitute. So
yeah,
it's a culmination of things. To become a teacher, I felt like a lot of factors, a lot of younger cooks that I worked with, and watching them grow and become chefs eventually,
yeah,
encouraged me to want to teach and bring that to the table. There's a lot of people that'll complain, oh, this kid graduated culinary school and doesn't know what he's talking about. Well, stop complaining and get in and teach them how to do it properly. Then become an instructor, show them how it's done.
yeah. Lead by example, right? That's
Yeah.
that was huge, man.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
that's one thing that I always try to like keep at heart, like when I'm promoting anything about our indigenous food culture, right? I have, like I was saying, I have a bunch of kids at home, but they love cooking and they love seeing what Mr. Bannock does. And all my nieces and nephews back on Mission Reserve too. Like there's multiple times I've seen or heard them listening to whether stuff on YouTube and hearing my own voice, right?
Absolutely. and
Uh,
it's and it's encouraging for that too, because when you
yeah,
bring that to the table for that next generation,
yeah.
we're helping them grow and helping them learn.
There, that was like my sister even messaged me like one day, like I was randomly, like I was just working at in the food truck, and she's like, your nieces are watching your stuff on YouTube, because we had a lot of good media, right? Just sharing my version of indigenous cuisine, and that just really hit home, where you have to take pride in what you do and do the best you can, right?
Absolutely. It kind of it almost sounds like it relates to a Daniel Hum quote from 11 Madison Park. Make it nice.
Yeah,
Just make it nice. Make
yeah,
it nice or make it twice, kind of thing.
yeah, yeah. That's funny. And yeah, like I think the last couple of days chatting with you about a ton of stuff is that we're from different parts of the nation, but we share a lot of common goals and teachings too, right?
Absolutely, and that's been the fun part about I have to look at it as a positive of all of us being at home, is that we're actually reaching out and connecting with people and talking to people and sharing our stories and sharing what we're doing as well too. And that's really important
Yeah,
because that knowledge gets out there and it encourages others, and it's a positive spin on things. It's a way to look at, hey, I'm learning from somebody else, or I'm checking out this recipe, or I'm opening that cookbook that I've had on the shelf for X amount of months and haven't looked at. I ordered it because it's got a name on it that I wanted to investigate, but it's encouraging people to really get in there.
yeah, for sure. That's it sounds good, right? Like we're all hustling hard in what we're doing, but like just anything, just like make friends and work together as much as you can, right? That's what my grandparents always used to say. And they're the ones that mostly inspired me on this road that I'm on, right?
Yeah, well, collaboration is important, and
Yeah,
that's the key to this. As we collaborate and I post up stories, other people are taking those dishes and doing them elsewhere. I've had a few people replicate things that I've done, or try
yeah,
different recipes just for that reason,
that,
and they're like, "Hey, the story looked really cool. I wanted to try that," or
yeah,
"I found a recipe that's similar to yours, but it has some of my favorite vegetables in it," and that's just it. It's like, here you go, and then they're selling it to somebody else, and it's going elsewhere and elsewhere and elsewhere, and it's like a domino effect.
yeah. Well, that's huge. Exactly what we've been talking about, right? Like
Yeah.
I definitely want to do some of those recipes that you're doing, and I'll definitely be getting in the kitchen with a few of my kids and trying them out. So
Absolutely, and that's the fun of it. It's just sending out those positive vibes with food and relating it back to food's the medicine, and
yeah,
the one bowl, one spoon philosophy. I've taken some knowledge from it, and I'm trying to pass along that bowl to somebody else so they take some knowledge from it too.
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And so on kind of the same topic, who which indigenous chef are you really enjoying watching what they're doing like right now with our food culture? That we mentioned a lot of good names that are doing awesome things, but who's your favorite one that you,
That's a tough one because I'm not making enemies here. That's a tough one for sure.
yeah,
Um, I think everybody right now, what we're seeing different things from different indigenous chefs that bring things to the table. I
yeah,
really love Rich's ability to take and twist and
yeah,
present it in a rustic form and outdoors. I love Shane's ability to adapt it and combine indigenous ingredients and non-indigenous ingredients.
yeah,
The research and the knowledge Sean Sherman's dropping. So it's hard to pick between those three because right
yeah,
now they're on fire and they're bringing some serious heat to the table and really showing us
yeah.
like that broader spectrum of what we can do with our food.
Well, they're all awesome, and they're all contributing to like our food culture, and and
Absolutely.
and we all need that, and we look up to it, and we look for it too, right? So I'm in the same boat. I really enjoy watching everything that they're doing. Like when I come home, when I'm done work, like I'm still a fan of food. Uh, like at home with 8 people in a house, like I want to try something different than what I'm doing, right? So I definitely enjoy watching what you're doing. I love watching what they're doing. And yeah, like we all can learn from each other, right?
Absolutely. And especially right now, it's nice to have everybody sharing this knowledge. There's a lot of
Yeah.
great chefs, indigenous and non-indigenous, just pumping out knowledge like crazy
Yeah.
and showcasing new things, new ideas. And sometimes it's encouraging when you see somebody else do something, you're like, all right, let's give this a try.
Yeah. And I think we talked about it briefly yesterday, but say they'll give say we're together cooking and they give us the same ingredients, we're definitely going to make something different in the way we do it, right?
Uh,
So
yeah, absolutely. It's like an episode of Chopped without a timer. If we had the same basket of ingredients, we're both going to come up with something completely different on either side.
yeah, so that like different styles, different flavors, and different textures, right? uh I definitely want I want to stress about it, like there's a lot of different ways to do our food culture, like whether it's indigenous or Canadian or like North American, whatever, right?
Absolutely. And I think right now too, with all those different styles coming out and more books being published, it's actually finally taking our oral tradition and codifying it so it can be shared knowledge and information along the way. I mean, there's a lot of little different communities that make their own little recipe books, but
Yeah,
unless you go looking for it, you're not going to find it. But
yeah,
as these other chefs become celebrities in the public eye, their books, as they come out, it's the knowledge and the history and the teachings and the stories from their community coming to light. And it also instills pride, you know, that indigenous pride that our younger generation seems to be grabbing a lot more
yeah,
hold of now. We're in a different time than we were, you know, 20 years ago, and it's really changed a lot.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Like, I remember when Rich was on Top Chef Canada, and I was like, man, how cool is that? Like, there's an indigenous chef on the Food Network, and he's doing like what we're doing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It
And
was
then,
it was super encouraging.
yeah, and then seeing like Shane on Top Canada too, right? And now how many other different like shows on the Food Network? It's pretty sweet to see some of our own like on TV and to see,
Absolutely.
like representing, right? It's pretty sweet. It's awesome to see for sure.
Yeah, and it's encouraging for the next generation. It's something that I bring to light in classes with my students when they're in the Indigenous program. I say, hey, you all have social media because you're all on your phones at some point in this class. I can't get you to put them away. But I say, you know, if you've got social media and you're using Facebook or Instagram, why don't you go take a look at this person? Why don't you go see what they're about? And sometimes it really encourages them, gives them ideas, or gets them excited. That's how the students got excited about meeting Rich at the NAC is
Yeah,
through his social media posts. They're like, oh wow, I've heard of him, or no, I haven't heard of him. And when they finally got to experience it, they're like, wow, this is really cool, you know. And it was a life-changing experience for them.
yeah. I was looking at a recipe, I swear, chef.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was looking up something on Google. Well, this isn't a bring your own device lab, so put away the phone, you know. The forever battle as a culinary teacher.
Yeah, that's too funny.
Yeah, phones are a blessing and a curse for them when they're in a lab.
Yeah, yeah. So it is the long weekend, right? Is there anything special that you're gonna be doing for the Fam Jam?
No, it's kind of business as usual right now. We've all in the house seem to have adopted different things that we're doing, and I really enjoy cooking dinner. I unfortunately get saddled with folding the laundry, which is always a task.
Yeah,
But no, not really up to anything too much. We're gonna relax and take it easy this weekend, and just, you know, be there for one another and encourage each other, and just try and make each other laugh and have a good time. Watch a little TV, relax, put our feet up. I've got
yeah,
some marking to do for the college
yeah.
as next week's our closeout week for this semester. So
Oh man,
yeah,
I
a
get.
few,
I
yeah, a
bet.
few.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say a few projects to mark, a few exams to go through with my classes, and
Yeah,
you know, and a few more Zoom interviews as well too with students for their chef
yeah,
of the day assignment and their black box challenge. So yeah, we're gonna have a busy couple of days this week. So
yeah. That is awesome.
yeah.
I'm pretty sure there some of the students are excited and nervous at the same time, right?
Oh, I'm sure they are. I get emails asking all the time about something, and you know, now that we have that extra time to make a little bit of a longer response, you can always make sure that they're pointed in the right direction.
Yeah, that is awesome.
Yeah,
Well, I think that's awesome job that you guys are doing, right? Like putting together this work that they can do online to finish their program and
yeah,
like adapting to it, right?
yeah. Of course. I mean, it was like I said, it was before. It was a challenge, but you know, some of them are really embracing it. Some of the black box assignments that I've gotten in for my practical three students have just been so elaborate and so detailed, and you can tell that they're hungry to do this. I was just
Yeah,
blown away by some of the work and the efforts, you know, and you know, out of your pack who's really pushing hard for this and really wish that they could be there, because with practical three, this would have been their final semester of their 2-year culinary management program, and unfortunately they miss out on it in the practical lab. But you know,
yeah,
we try and give it to them as much as possible online.
yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Well, hands up to all you guys for adapting and still being able to let them finish and start their careers, right?
absolutely. It's like I said, it's, you got to love what you do, and there's a lot of great bakery, pastry teachers that are out there, our coordinators, our chairs, our dean and of the faculty itself, and the support staff behind them, our budget officers and marketers, and those that take care of us as part-time instructors have been indispensable during this time. And we've all had to learn to pull together and figure out how Zoom works and find some funny virtual backgrounds in these things to have some fun with. But yeah, it's been a challenge.
Yeah, no doubt. Like, yeah, it's definitely different times. Like none of us could plan or prepare for something like this. Like chefs are really good at like going with the flow, I guess, right? Something, yeah, you have to go on the fly sometimes, right?
Yeah, improvisation. You've got to, like I said, it goes back to that whole do what you can with what you have where you are kind of mentality. And that's what we had to do with the programs.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, yeah, like for us here, we're gonna be making some Sunday brunch soon. I got some bread, some raisin bread from Cobb's, and we're gonna make some French toast with sausages and fresh fruit.
Nice. That sounds awesome. I find breakfast sometimes here is just a hodgepodge of everything. It's for me, it's the old, got to have a coffee in the morning kind of thing. But yeah, I find like lunch and dinner are a little bit more of an event. And like I said, tonight it's tonkatsu sandwiches and an interesting story to bring up again.
Yeah. Well, you definitely got to let me know when you're going to do the noodles. Like, we'll definitely tune in. Like,
for sure.
I like watching what everybody's doing right now, right? And that's how I sent you the invite today to do this. Like, I'm a fan. Keep it up.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah. And like at the end of the day, like when I'm done work, like I'm not working right now just because everything that's going on, but I'm doing a lot of digital stuff like recipes, videos. Like me, like outside of work, I'm a foodie. I like seeing what people are doing. I like to see different plating, different flavors and textures and techniques, right? So it's never stop learning, right?
Absolutely. I feel the same way. If the day you feel you know everything in the kitchen, I say hang up your knives and your chef coat and go find something else interesting to do, because there's so much to learn and absorb. And I'm in the same boat as well too. I love seeing different plating and different ingredients and what people are doing, or even on the back end of it, how they're producing it, and where it's coming from and what part of the land it's from. And learning about new ingredients sometimes, or new vegetables that seem to pop up from different places.
Yeah. So it was definitely a pleasure like chatting with you, and like I said before, I really love seeing what you're doing. Keep it up. You're rocking it.
Well, thanks for that. It was a pleasure to be here today, and it's great to do these interviews and talk to people about food and food sciences, and even just like having a chat,
Yeah, for sure. Is there another little tip that you want to share with like kids that are joining their parents cooking at home?
I always say accuracy first and then speed. Learn how to use a knife properly and how to tuck those fingers in when you're cutting, and do it slowly. Don't try and move as fast as the guys that you see on TV, because you're going to end up with a cut. So, I say accuracy first and then speed. That's my best advice for anything. And it's not just with a knife, it's when you're cooking as well too. Just accurate, and then you'll learn to add your own flair to it as you go.
Nice. Love it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for your time again. I can't wait to see what you're doing tonight. You have a good day and stay safe out there.
I will. You as well too. It was a pleasure being here. Thanks again, and have a great long weekend, man.
Yeah, thank you. You as well.
All right. Take care.
Yeah, have a good day.
You too.